Hello, listeners! For today's interview on Ensnaring the Muse, we have singer songwriter Jess Yaffa, who is set to release her new EP titled Thoughts That Keep Me Up at Night sometime later in July. We'll talk about inspiration. As always, let's go. Jess Yaffa, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited.
Yeah, well, I have to say that you are doing me a great service as I have practically no subscribers and I see some degree of superstardom in your future. So,
Thank
you
you.
know. So I first found out about you when I was looking for music to review, and I came across your song "Too Soon." Yeah, which I just absolutely loved it for a number of reasons. It was really for me more than anything. I mean, your performance, your singing, your lyrics, all of that seems to be top notch. Um, but I loved the arrangement of it, and looking into other songs, the instrumental arrangements were, for me, very captivating. Um, yeah, and so I was hoping that maybe we could start with just your creative process in general, like soup to nuts. How do you go about crafting your music?
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, I write a lot of my songs between the hours of 2 and 3 in the morning.
Okay.
When I tell people, I get a chuckle because I write a lot when I can't sleep at night because I'm a stress sleeper where I think all of my thoughts right before I go to sleep. So I I write all of the lyrics down that I think of
Oh,
right before I go to sleep in either a notebook or on my notes app. So the lyrics really come first for me, and they either come with melody or without. And it really just depends on what's going through my brain at the moment. But normally, after I settle with the lyrics, it is just me and my piano. And I sit down and I try to craft a melody that joins with the lyrics in order to enhance them.
okay,
It's not a separate thing. It's really a together thing,
right.
and that's what I love so much about making music is because the lyrics and the melody go hand in hand.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're kind of like a living version of that meme of the girl trying to fall asleep and her brain's talking to her
Yeah.
about, yeah.
Yep. Yep.
That's awesome. And so your instrument is primarily piano.
Yeah. I write
Ah,
primarily on the piano, occasionally guitar, but mostly I just sit down at the piano and play different chords, see what works, see what doesn't. It's a lot of trial and error sometimes,
mhm.
but at the end of the day, I try to find what works best. And normally for me, it feels right when I come up with them.
Right. Okay, so you're up at 3 in the morning, and then the next day, groggy and in need of caffeine, you go to the piano.
Yeah.
And
Big coffee person. I gotta have my coffee before it.
okay, cool, cool. Me too. Yeah, you're hitting all my marks. I'm also a pianist
Yeah.
and a furious coffee drinker. Um, so then you get the song to a point where you're happy with it. What
Mhm.
comes next?
What comes next is I go to my producer that I've been working with
Mhm.
since I was 17 years old.
Okay,
So for almost 3 years now. And he is just the best collaborator in the entire world. And his name's Scott Jacoby. And he has really helped me grow and learn, not only as a musician, but as a person with
cool.
confidence to go into a studio and be like, here, I wrote this. This is what it sounds like. Can you help me expand on it? And we just kind of get each other in a creative way where I I play him what I wrote on like a voice memo. Sometimes it's really funny because
Right.
it's me and it has the 3:15 a.m. tag,
Mhm.
and I I sit down and we just kind of bounce ideas off of what we want it to sound like, what way we want it to go. Is it more acoustic? Is it more produced? And how the production can aid in the storytelling, because I'm a
Nice.
big storyteller when it comes to writing songs, because I find it easier for other people to relate to them and to create a community based off of that. And I that's the second part of building a song for me.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful. So how did you meet your producer?
We met through just friends of friends of friends
Okay.
who connected us. Um, and I was writing songs late in high school. I had a whole kind of archive of songs that I was writing, and I didn't really know what to do with them. I could play them on piano, but my production skills are not up to par in the way that I needed them to be, or I need them to be at the moment. We're working on it. We're working on it.
That's cool.
But it was a perfect collaboration,
Okay.
and the art of collaborating, I think, is so important, and you really get another person or multiple people's perspectives, and it's really cool because it can only really enhance what you're doing. And I love it. I love collaborating,
Yeah.
especially with Scott.
Well, and it's so interesting because I'm a teacher, and I teach piano. And one of the things that we always talk about with piano students is that, the greatest strength is the greatest weakness. Piano, if used correctly, can basically replace any other instrument. So it can be self-contained as opposed to something like flute. You're a flute player, you can play one note at a time, and really that's it. Nothing against flute players.
Yeah.
But for piano, it's like, for students anyway, we really have to push them to connect with other musicians or to collaborate just because of that.
Mhm.
Are you self-taught, or did you have
I
education?
had lessons when I was a lot younger,
Mhm.
just kind of the basic playing hot cross buns and a little bit of the entertainer,
Okay.
um, on the piano. But a couple of years ago, like my junior and senior year of high school, I uh, sat down and I retaught myself
Hmm.
how to play chords and how to accompany myself covering
Right.
songs. Then I introduced it into adding melody and sound and attuned to my own lyrics.
That's interesting that it sounds like it's been a short period of time, really, that you've been a song creator.
I've been writing for as long as I can remember. I actually thought
Okay.
about it today of how I would of a weird memory from gym class from like third grade, where I went around and I was like, guys, I wrote a song and I sang it for a bunch of my friends in elementary school. And I've just always been one to sing around the house, sing, be in plays and musicals, and uh, writing random things. But I think I really honed my songwriting craft as a creator and an artist and recognized that this is what I wanted to pursue in life
Mhm.
my junior year of high school.
That's cool. Well, and I should say that, you're a young person. I think are you 19? Is
I'm
that
19.
okay? All right. Yeah, that's cool. Um, yeah, as a young person singing and writing, when did you feel like it was really taking shape? Like you're like, I can do this. This is what I want to do.
I had the privilege of being a part of a program at the Clive Davis Institute of Recorded Music at NYU, and it's
Oh.
called the Future Music Moguls Program. And it was a application process, and you spent every Saturday of your spring semester, mine was my junior year, going to the Clive Davis School and learning about music production, songwriting, music business, becoming your own
Wow.
artist and becoming your own business and becoming and really honing your craft and learning from the people around you, because we all came from different experience levels and different backgrounds, but it was the moment where I realized that this is the environment that I want to put myself in. These are the people that I want to surround myself with. This is what I want to do with my life. And it was a really cool realization for me, and coming in, and being in it and coming out of it, I really recognized how big of not just how big of a world that we live in and how many
Right.
stories and how many people can influence you, but also just that I really wanted to follow this path for myself, and I felt like I could do it because I had gotten accepted and I had this opportunity to, it was 16 kids, I'm pretty sure, and we all
Wow.
just went from like 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. every Saturday for the spring semester in high school, and everybody wanted to be there and everyone wanted to learn, and we had industry professionals and artists come in to talk to us and really give us the lowdown, and it was life changing.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. And so are you based out of New York then? Or
Yes, I grew up in New
okay.
York.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. Um, so what about current music? Or I guess can you give us a list of like when you're not making music, what's the music that you enjoy?
I am a huge Maggie Rogers fan.
Oh dear.
Huge Maggie Rogers fan.
Okay. I don't know
I
Maggie
also,
Rogers.
she is spectacular. She is
Okay.
so good. And I love Florence and the Machine.
Okay.
I also grew up listening to Etta James, Fleetwood Mac. I love the way that Bruce Springsteen writes songs. I'm very inspired by him and how he's able to tell stories through the way that he writes. And I I was fortunate to have parents who love music and who just played different types of music around the house and in the cars, um, and on road trips. And I listened to everything from, Lauryn Hill to, Sheryl Crow when I was younger. And I loved it.
If you had to name an artist that's influenced you the most, like we could possibly hear in your music.
Um, Probably Maggie Rogers, I would
Okay.
say. She's an up and coming artist. She was nominated for Best New Artist at the Grammys last year. Uh, Not this past year, but the year before.
Mhm.
And I just love the way that she uses sound to enhance her lyrics. And that's a big part of what I do, to storytell and to relate. But also Taylor Swift,
Yeah.
honestly, the way that she
Okay.
storytells too, I think that that's amazing. And, you know, being a female in music too, I've learned that it's important to really share your craft and share a story through what you're uh,
Yeah. You know,
singing.
it's hard to say this about somebody who's like made so many millions of dollars off of her music, but at the same time, I never really thought that Taylor Swift got the respect that she deserved as a songwriter.
Yeah,
That I always felt like that aspect of her creativity was overshadowed by the fact that she was like this real life Disney princess kind of
yeah,
character.
totally. And I respect her songwriting and her ability to just use words to share a feeling,
Mhm.
and that so many people can relate to. I admire it so much.
Yeah, yeah, and being a young artist yourself, there is something kind of cool about an artist who breaks through pretty early on in life, and then we get to see their development real time. It's not like, Mozart where we have to do everything retrospectively.
Yeah,
Um, but at the same time, I think there are I don't know how to put this. There are landmines, I suppose, to putting yourself out there and being in the public, as a young person. And I wonder if we can speak to that just a little bit.
yeah, of
Like,
course.
is there any part of you that's concerned at all?
It's something that I think about a lot, actually,
Mm,
because my end game and my goal, and when I think about success in what the word means, is if I can do what I love and what I feel I was meant to do
Hmm.
for the rest of my life and make a living wage, then and be happy, then I would deem myself successful.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm putting myself. That's where what perspective I'm putting myself in right now, and obviously that comes with its early stages of putting myself out in the public, where you have to give up that sense of privacy and security. And recently I've been getting a lot of new Instagram followers,
Hmm.
and if it were a couple of years ago, I'd politely decline requests, and I'd
Right.
politely maybe block some people that I didn't know. But
Yeah.
it's just, it's one of those things that you kind of have to get comfortable with people, relating to your music and wanting to see you grow as an artist.
Hmm.
And I have had to recognize and accept that recently, and it's been cool. It's cool to see how far you can reach with what you
Yeah.
do, and I'm at the very early stages of it, and
Right.
I am on that path for myself. And I everyone's like, oh my god, like, you're gonna be famous. And I'm like, the fame isn't something that I really think about. It's, I want to be able to do this for the rest of my life. Like, I want to be able to write songs, I want to be able to make music, because that's what I love to do, and that's like what comes easiest to me.
Mm.
If I can sit down and write a song so much easier than I can solve any math equation or do any econ homework or anything. So that's the big, like, success situation for me. But
Mm.
I totally understand with the social media and the public world that we live in now. It's definitely something that you have to consider when you think of what you have to give up in order to find that quote unquote success.
Hmm. I have a young friend, former student actually, and she was hired to do basically like social media public relations.
Right.
And she's just a little bit older than you are. But her principal complaint was the number of pseudo Saudi businessmen who wanted to put her up in a house and, you know, eh,
I've gotten many DMs from people
yeah.
who have asked me to be in relationships
Oh,
with them.
jeez. So
but
how do you
but it's
handle that? Do you just ignore it or?
I just kind of brush it off.
Okay.
I've been doing a couple of live Instagram shows,
Hmm.
and you get your fair share of bots that come on and
Okay.
comment. And,
Well,
first time it happened, I kind of had a mini panic attack because I didn't really I focused too much on the comments have it rather than how I performed. And I was really proud of, I should have been really proud of myself for the way that I was performing
mhm,
and the way that I did it. But I just kind of pigeonholed myself into thinking about the comments, which is just
right,
something that I had to learn and brush off. And now I'm better at brushing it off because I've experienced it. But you kind of have to just like learn from experience
right.
and take that with you to help you grow and be a better person in the future. And I
Wise
think that that's really
words.
important.
Those are, yeah, those are very, I hope people listening would take that to heart. Well, let's talk about performances. Uh, are you being in New York?
Yeah.
I don't know what your situation is like there as far as like live venues. And of course, being under 21, I don't know if is that a particular challenge for you or.
Now that things are starting to open up in New York City, it's definitely going to be better in terms of finding places to play
Mhm,
and surrounding areas too, like in Long Island and outside of the city.
mhm.
So I'm excited to start playing gigs this summer.
Great. Do you have anything
And
lined up?
you,
Sorry,
right
I cut
now
you
I'm
off.
figuring some. No, no, no
Okay.
worries. I just did a live show on Instagram for an athletic company, and right now I am booking in Westchester County and in Long Island. Um, and I'm trying to figure out booking in the city as well, just to find the
Awesome.
right place to, you know, where I can uh, where I can play.
Very cool. All right, I want to talk about Too Soon, and you have an EP coming out, and that is in July, if I have that correct.
Yes,
called Thoughts That
Yes,
Keep Me.
probably towards the later half. Oh, sorry, I'm cutting you off.
You're no, you're there's a little bit of a delay happening.
Probably towards the later half.
Hmm. But Thoughts That Keep Me Up
Sorry.
at Night is the
It's probably coming up towards the later.
yeah. Um, so how did that come about? Was it just you had enough songs that you felt good about and
Yeah, so thoughts that keep me up at night verbatim came stemmed from the
right?
songs that I wrote when I couldn't sleep, and um, I wrote a lot of them pre-COVID, and
Okay,
of course COVID hit, and everybody had to deal with what they
right.
were doing, and um, and these songs were just in my head a package that encompassed a point of life that I was in at the moment, and that's how I think of a lot of packages of my songs that I write. Like,
Hmm.
okay, these six or these five represent this era of my life. Like my
Mm,
first EP that I came out with in 2019 um, was my it was encompassing the transition of being a high school
right.
senior and growing up in high school and high school love and high school experience and all of that jazz. But now I wrote the later songs, the songs on Thoughts That Keep Me Up at Night, they represent the transition period between high school and going into college. And now I'm writing songs at this point in my life now, going into my junior year of college, and they're all completely different. So
Wow.
Thoughts That Keep Me Up at Night is really uh, a time capsule of that period of life and how these were the thoughts that kept me up at night.
Hmm. Yeah, there does seem to be, well, I would say more with Too Soon. The song Taylor, which I got to hear, I think is unreleased as of right now, isn't it? Yeah. So haha, I got to hear it, you
Yes.
didn't, audience. Um, but for a song like Too Soon, it seemed like there was kind of a confessional, like almost like diary entry quality to the lyrics of that. Is that a fair representation of it?
Yeah, of Taylor, it was actually a concept that I made up.
Okay.
It I came up with the concept of Taylor as a feeling and a moment that could represent a person, place, or thing
Hmm.
that seems great at the beginning, and the idea of it seems 100% A plus, but then you get into it and you're like, nope, absolutely not. This is not where I want to be. This is not
Right.
who I want to be with. This is just, I thought it was great, not great,
Hmm.
but hey, if it gets better, maybe I'll be open to it again. And
Well,
I think that a lot of people around me have had that experience too in
well,
college. And
uh,
you kind of go on these different paths and you're like, okay, yeah,
yeah, and you talked about like the storytelling aspect of your songwriting. And so I guess that makes sense as like this kind of encapsulated mini movie kind of idea, of the song. For Taylor, it was really like the arrangement I thought was absolutely stunning. And was that primarily your producer, or how did the musicians come about? How did that happen?
yeah, it was a collaboration between the two of us, and the producer did a really great job. And when we sit down and we talk about it and we do pre-production and we say, hey, this is a song that's primarily acoustic but has the vibe of a song that has drums and a song that
Right.
has a little bit of synth and production to it. But this was actually one of the few songs that was written on guitar.
Okay.
And the guitar part was partly written by my dad.
Oh,
And
okay.
because I wrote the lyrics to the song, and I came to him and I was like, hey, what do you think of these lyrics? And he said, oh, they're great. And then a day later, I get a text from him, and it's a video of him playing a guitar part to the song.
Nice.
and um, and I sent that to the producer that to Scott, the producer, and we went from there to build from that and to make it seem to make it seem uplifting and energetic,
Hmm.
because there's a positive aspect to it, because even when you realize that it's not necessarily where you want to be right now,
Hmm.
that's a positive thing because you're moving on and you recognize that. And
Good point.
overall, the beginning's positive, the middle end is a recognition of, not the best experience for me. This is not where I want to be right now. It's a positive thing because it's a learning experience.
Yeah, yeah. And it seems like there's a little bit, just like the tiniest hint of country music in that song. Is that fair? No, did I
Sorry,
lose?
I missed a little bit of
Oh,
cut
I'm
out.
sorry. We're glitching. Yeah. When I was listening to it, I was thinking to myself, I'll and it's funny that you mentioned that being kind of a Taylor Swift fan. It seemed like there was just the tiniest country influence in Taylor.
Yeah, I wasn't necessarily brought up on listening to country music, but I love, again, the storytelling aspect of it
Yeah,
because
that's true.
it's like a huge part of it. And that's what I respect a lot about country music. So having the acoustic guitar being the centerpiece of it, I
Mhm.
think it gave that authentic acoustic feel. And I was
Cool.
really proud of that. And I think it
Yeah.
really centered the song.
What is your least favorite trend in current music?
I I can't think off the top of my head what my least favorite would be, because what I've learned to respect so much about musicians, especially in COVID,
Mm.
is how people are creative and how people create is so versatile, and there's no saying no to what you can do creatively
Okay.
because anything's possible. So I respect the heck out of musicians and artists and songwriters in general because of how they're able to create and how this is what flows out of their head, and this is how they think and how they tell stories and how they process and basically do therapy for themselves sometimes. And so any song that really comes out from someone is a product of them and who they are. So there's no trend that I of course things bug me, but it's just a preference, a musical preference sometimes, because of course I have my own music that I listen
Right.
to on a daily basis versus other people. But like one song that I like, someone it might not like, or one song that I don't like, someone might love. But
Right.
at the bottom of it, I respect people who come out with music and are in the creative industry, any creative industry. So I respect them so much.
I think and as you go further, it what people like versus what they don't becomes increasingly baffling. When I was
Mm-hmm.
when I was putting together my first library, I was in my 20s, and I was learning a new piece of software, and I just generated several tracks thinking nobody's going to be really interested in them, but I'll put them in my library, to make it look more fleshed out. And the first movie deal that I ever had, they chose every single one of those throwaway tracks.
Yeah.
No clue.
Wow.
And it was at that moment that I realized there is nothing objective about taste, you know
Oh.
and that's what, yeah, that kind of just fueled me. I don't know, I was thinking, because it seems like you really take your time with your songwriting and your production.
Songwriting, sometimes.
Okay.
I wrote one of the songs on my EP that I remember I wrote it in 20 minutes. Like there are some songs that I can sit down, literally
Mhm.
just bang out in 20 minutes, but then there are some songs where I have a chorus and a verse and I just can't think of a bridge. I just
Okay.
can't do it. And I can't think of that connecting portion of the song, or, how I'm going to connect the story and build off the story. So it takes me a while, or I'll have just unfinished notes in my phone that I go back to. And it takes a lot of time. So it just really depends on what comes to me and what doesn't and when it does.
um That's interesting because it almost sounds like an improv kind of session, but it's like an improv that you can record
Yeah,
if you flesh something out in like 20 minutes.
yeah.
That's really cool. Well, wow, that was a quick 30 minutes.
Wise.
So for me anyway, I don't know. You may have been tortured the entire time, but
No,
no,
no, this was amazing. I really, really enjoyed this. I
thank
love
you.
talking about music and talking about, creativity. It's really fun.
Thank it, and it's much appreciated over here. Can you where can we find you?
You can find me on any streaming platform of your choosing, but my Instagram is at by Jess Yaffa, Yaffa, and I'm on all social media in with that handle, with that username.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.